Welcome to the Reboot Chronicles, connecting you to the world's top leaders and CEOs rebooting their organizations and themselves with revealing stories to help you prosper in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeBias, and as a serial CEO who's led dozens of companies that created thousands of jobs and billions in revenue, my passion is uncovering powerful lessons that can inspire you to reboot your organization, your career, and your life. Listen and subscribe wherever you get podcasts or at rebootchronicles.com. I'd like to welcome Kinsey Fabrizio to the Reboot Chronicles, the president of the Consumer Technology Association. The CTA represents over 1,300 consumer technology companies and owns and produces the CES, of course, the most powerful tech event in the world. Started over 100 years ago in the 1924 radio era. I know just lost half the audience on that one. CES has become the largest tech show on the planet with 4,500 exhibitors and hundreds of thousands of attendees from 150 countries and 6,000 global media and analysts, including Reboot Media's Reboot Chronicles show. Kinsey and Gary Shapiro have been rebooting the CTA and the CES show, I think what I would call more into a dynamic organization that's helping guide the next generation of technology growth and becoming the advocate for global innovation for the next 100 years with technology that we probably can't even fathom yet. Kinsey, it's good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I stumbled on the intro there because when I read CTA, as a Chicago boy, I think of Chicago Transit Authority.
But it's just that happens actually all the time. We get confused.
You get the wrong emails a lot.
People will say, "Oh, the CTA I've heard of is this one," but we invest a lot in our brand and making sure that Consumer Technology Association is known. But I do have a funny CTA story. One of our board members on the board of industry leaders is on a CTA board, but she also serves on the Chicago Transit Authority board. So she's on two CTA boards.
Yeah, I can tell you which one's more fun.
So can I.
Definitely the Technology Association. I've been a member on and off over the years, way back when I was CMO of LG, the U.S. group, and Zenith. At one point, we had the largest CES booth at the show, which was like building a city. It was miserable. I think we all had to fly there the day after Christmas. It took so long to build it. So maybe that's a good place to start for people who've never been to the show. Maybe tell them what it's like. It's amazing.
Well, it is amazing. I actually think it's really fun to go to Vegas the week after the holidays because, we've all been home and children have been out of school. So sometimes it's kind of nice to get away and go to Vegas and stay in a nice hotel for a little bit of time. But you mentioned LG. They are an exhibitor at CES. CES is the world's most powerful tech event. It happens in the beginning of January in Las Vegas. Every year, we bring together over 140,000 attendees, over 4,500 exhibitors, 1,400 startups, and 50,000 people from outside the United States. So it's truly a global event. It is the global stage for innovation. It's where companies showcase their newest, hottest products, software solutions, and it's where they talk about the future. It's truly a look into the future of technology, the future of innovation, and it's all about how tech is solving the world's biggest challenges. And it's the most exciting thing that I do every year, and I'm just honored to get to be a part of it.
Yeah. You've been rebooting the CTA and the show, for years now. Most people didn't know that it started in 1924, 100 years ago. It was all about radio. Then it became all about television. When I got involved, it was definitely TVs and it was hardware, a lot of hardware.
Yeah.
And then it seemed to evolve into, with PCs and the internet. And so it's evolved more into what tech can do to impact industries. So what's your view of the evolution and how you've rebooted it and where you're taking it next?
Yeah, well, so CTA has been around for 100 years. We started as the Radio Manufacturers Association, as you noted. CES will turn 60 in 2027. So it's been around
Wow.
A little bit less, but still a very long time.
Still a long time.
And yeah, it's a long
You used to be
time.
and speaking of CT, you used to be in Chicago all the time.
It
That's back
did. It
back in the
did.
day.
We
Yeah.
rotated and then we went all in on Las Vegas. And
Yeah.
really, CES put Vegas on the map as a
You
business.
outgrew Chicago, I think, is what happened. It
We
was
did
you guys were
well, we
so
did, and it was better for one time of year. Earlier in the year, companies get to debut and lay out their ideas, their principles, their new products for the year, and then also, companies will show things that you might not be able to buy or use or demo for another 5, 10, 15 years.
or ever.
Or ever. I mean, at a couple, the last few CESs, there's been flying cars. Who knows when those will be a reality, but I think in my lifetime they will.
I
Uh,
was told when I was a kid we would have them by now. I'm very disappointed about flying cars.
I know. They're really cool. I can't wait till they're a reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we've been constantly evolving because the technology industry constantly evolves. And you're right. When the show first started, it was truly hardware, radios and audio products, and that evolved into TV, and then into computers and phones and laptops and tablets. And now we see the evolution. We still see it in hardware because there's cars and farming equipment and industrial technology and robots and robotics at CES, but also there's a real shift into software. And so we see AI solutions, we see so many unique software applications that are really powering and driving the innovation on the devices. And, with the explosion of the internet, back in the day and now AI, that's been a transformational part of CES.
Yeah, very exciting. There used to be a PC show that was in the fall that competed with you, and that's where all the computer guys would go. And eventually, they went belly up.
Convex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Comdex. Yeah, so that was an interesting evolution because it was really kind of following the market. It's like, hey, this is all the same stuff now. It's enabling technology, and it's interesting. Sometimes we go through these cycles as a tech industry, and there was one show where everyone was talking about the metaverse, and I would just shake my head and go, okay, this is not going to change as many companies wanted it to change the future. So you're right about that. A lot of it doesn't come to fruition, and I think it's okay not to be afraid of that because it's pushing the limits. And so what are you most excited about now as you've seen the evolution? It's about, hey, how it can impact different sectors. Like I know
Yeah.
medical is a big one. What are you excited about?
Medical's a big one. I'll say one comment on metaverse, and this is something we see happen at CES, is
Yeah.
sometimes a new segment of the industry is rolled out and launched, and the initial application isn't quite right, but then it evolves. And so what the metaverse has evolved into is a really powerful enterprise solutions called digital twin technology. And that's phenomenal for anyone who has a manufacturing facility or who has a retail storefront and wants to create a digital replica in the metaverse that allows them to manipulate, see, and understand real time what's happening in the physical world. So it's just a digital copy. And what it does is creates efficiency. It allows companies to have more information and to move quickly. And so you bringing up metaverse, that's a great example of it's not a consumer tool or application right now that people are engaging in deeply, but it's huge on the enterprise side. And so that's been great to see.
And on the game side too,
Absolutely.
a couple episodes before you, Ted Leonsis and I'd sold one of my companies, a games company, to AOL. So it became the AOL Games Channel. We're talking 95. This is ancient, but we actually invented one of the first metaverse products. It was a 3D virtual world you can buy and
Oh,
sell
how cool.
goods. All this, I mean, everyone thought Ted and I were crazy doing interviews with the Wall Street Journal and all this stuff. And if you look at the games sector now and esports and all these other things going on, and the merchandise and all the virtual goods, it's billion-dollar industries, and it
Wow.
hasn't even got started yet.
That's
What is it,
great.
20 years later?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
You're
that's
right.
great.
Sometimes it's a kickstart, and you
Yeah,
pick and choose.
absolutely.
AI is a little different. How are you seeing that?
AI is different. AI is one of the things I'm excited about. I mean, I think about AI, I think about when the internet first, um, came to be and all of the major impactful changes that had in our lives, well, AI is going to do the same thing. And I'm talking about generative AI, which is what we're seeing that's actually creating major change right now. I mean, AI has been around for forever. We've experienced it
Couple
before we fly
decades.
on a plane. Yeah. But
Yeah.
generative AI is really the game changer, and it's really going to change every vertical of technology and our lives, how we work, how we function in our homes, our health. It's going to impact everything, and I think it's an important opportunity for companies to take advantage of, not to replace people, but to make their people more efficient, and give their people more capacity to do more and to learn more and to be more intelligent and to even be safer in some situations. We're seeing AI applications used there. So I'm excited about AI. I also love digital health technology. Health
Yeah,
tech
I
is
know that's one of your hot buttons.
it's one of my favorite categories because, well, I love health and wellness and maintaining a healthy lifestyle, but I also deeply care about the health of everyone in our country. And there's no way that we can deliver healthcare, that we can provide healthcare access, that we can ensure that people live healthy lives without technology. We don't have the workforce. We don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough healthcare providers, and our system can't handle it. But with the use of technology, connected devices, wearables, technologies that allow people to age in their home and monitor family members, then we can be empowered, and we do have that ability. And even advances like CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, that are now being made available not just to people who have diabetes, but people who just want to understand
Yeah,
what the impact of certain foods and behaviors is on their blood glucose levels. That's amazing.
I know so many people who have those. I'll go to a party and they'll pull up their sleeve and
Yeah.
show me. I haven't
Well,
quite, I haven't made the jump to that yet, but it's like, yeah, so constant real time monitoring and then AI analytics about what does it mean? What can you do?
yeah. And think about how powerful that is, because up until, the last decade really, the only health information you could actually have about yourself on a daily basis was like maybe a very basic step counter and your scale. But now you can have so much more robust information about yourself. You can empower yourself with your own personal health and wellness data, and then that allows you to make lifestyle decisions and changes that make you healthier.
And as you've evolved as an organization, it's like CTA and the CES show was always about consumer, and now it's not. It's about everything. So you mentioned B2B and SaaS, and it's about
Yeah,
the world. It's
it
about
is.
how do you manage that though? That is, used to have a board of directors that was very focused on consumer products. Now I can't imagine how you kind of manage the tech agenda because
Yeah.
it's embedded. It's finally becoming, embedded everywhere, whereas it used to be very, niche oriented.
Well, you're absolutely right. It's a great observation to point out, and we have seen that shift at CES. And what we understand and what we see is that a lot of the innovation that consumers will eventually use or will impact products that they can buy directly starts on the enterprise side. And so we think it's important to have both of those communities together at CES. They learn from each other, the way that product managers and developers of consumer products, they learn from the enterprise side and vice versa. And
Right.
also the big benefit of being at CES, like I mentioned earlier, it's a global market. So we have 50,000 people from outside the US come to the show. That's great, whether you're a company that makes enterprise solutions or consumer products. So we see them taking advantage of that, as well as the amount of media that come to CES. Over 6,000 media come to the show. So
I
if
was
you have an
surprised at that
announcement,
number. That is high.
yeah, if you have an announcement to make and you
Yeah.
also have a concept to demo with it, there's no better place to do it.
You really hit on something that I've experienced. It's like a lot of B2B companies are actually consumer companies as well, or they're a consumer brand. Just take
Yeah,
Google that has a massive B2B platform. When I took AutoWeb public,
Amazon.
it was both consumer and all of the
Yeah,
ecosystems that you have to work with. So that makes sense. You're more of an enabler. And the
yeah,
other mistake I've seen happen is we think we're building consumer product, and the first application is actually enterprise, or
that's
vice
right.
versa. It's usually not vice versa too much, but yeah, that has probably changed the whole way that you have kind of rebooted how you help these companies. So outside of the show,
Yeah.
how do you help companies as a group, as an association?
Yeah, well, you mentioned, we have around 1,300 member companies, and CES is 4 days of the year,
I
but
actually thought that was higher, but those are massive companies as
they're
well as
huge
startups.
companies, and
Yeah,
all the individual employees of those companies take
yeah.
advantage of member benefits. So we engage with a tremendous amount of technology professionals throughout the year. CES is 4 days a year. The other 361 days a year, we're focused on advocacy. We represent our members in the tech industry. Interests and needs on Capitol Hill with lawmakers and with regulators, and through positive conversations that will allow the tech industry to thrive and innovation to continue. We write standards. So we're a standard setting organization. Every time you fly and they make the announcement to put your phone on airplane mode,
All
CTA
right.
wrote that standard.
Yeah,
And
I
we wrote that
remember that. Yeah.
to solve a problem. And that's what our standards do. We also developed the standard for closed captioning for TVs and so many others. We produce
I
market
was part of
research.
the HD standard, HDTV standard way back
That was
when.
huge. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember
Yeah.
John Taylor. John Taylor was a big help with that as well back at LG. Wow.
I know, and he was around for the 4K standard and the 8K standard too. He was involved in all of those. We do market research, so we're constantly looking at consumer sentiment and ownership of different
Uh,
technology products and segments, so that we can share that research data with our members. And what's unique about the way we do research is we approach it from a neutral, third party industry perspective, not one company looking at one solution, but all of the potential streaming TV options. What is the ownership and the market size of those, or what is consumer sentiment towards bundling, or what is consumer likeliness to adopt new health technologies and wearables. So looking at the entire category versus just one product or one company perspective. And so that really makes us unique there. And then we also convene our members very regularly. We have almost biweekly webinars about different topics that are impacting the tech industry. Tariffs is a big conversation we're having all the time with our members right now. We talk about other key opportunities for whether it's for a small startup or a big tech or an investor. We're constantly engaging digitally and with in-person events with our companies throughout the year, because we believe convening and bringing tech executives together to problem solve is a great way to facilitate growth in the industry.
yeah, I was always fascinated when I go to these meetings. We're head to head in a table with our competitors who we hate.
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
we're working together.
how do you manage that working together? So we would work together on standards and fight,
Uh-huh.
but in terms of the day to day competitiveness and
Yeah,
consumer data is something we cherish and hold
of course.
close to the vest. Yeah,
Of course,
yeah,
of course. Well, there's always going to be competing interests and competitors together as part of our organization. And that's what makes it unique and special, because we're able to balance all those different points of views and build consensus to move the industry forward. And what's beautiful about CTA, and what I really appreciate about our members and our member companies and our volunteers, is when they're engaging in an activity with CTA, they take off their company hat and they
yeah,
put their industry hat on. And they're
yeah.
thinking about, the category of mobility instead of what do I, BMW, want for mobility, or what do I, Waymo, want for mobility. They're thinking about mobility in terms of the whole category and what's best for the industry.
Yeah, makes sense. And I like the perspectives you bring without getting boring and geeky about policy here. Is if you look at AI over the last 6, 7 years, governments are not the most enlightened organizations to be figuring out what to do with AI. As a matter of fact, sometimes it makes things worse. Overregulation,
Yeah.
whatever. So it seems like you bring an important perspective to that, as well as other associations, everything from TechNet, who I've done a lot of lobbying for, to
Yeah.
the technology, the telecom associations, and
Hmm.
you probably don't always agree with everyone because you definitely are on the heavy tech side now, and still
Yeah.
hardware as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, hardware and software. We don't always agree with everyone. We don't always agree with governments, but the way that we try to move the conversation forward is to showcase all of the good things that can be achieved with these new and innovative tech solutions, whether that's a hardware or a software solution. And we
Love
try
it.
to tell that story to lawmakers and regulators by inviting them to CES. We believe that seeing is believing, and if they can come to Las Vegas and walk through the expo hall and actually touch and feel and demo products and talk to founders about
Yep.
why they created this amazing solution. We think that's a really important role that we have to play. But we also advocate for, we're not anti regulation, but we advocate for fair regulation and clear guidelines so that our companies can understand what the rules are, where the goalpost is, so that they can create within those parameters and not have it be a guessing game.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's really where we stand. We think the United States has done a pretty good job of kind of being, just in the middle. Europe really overregulates, and that's been
Over
very
regulates. Yep.
um,
Yeah.
China's, totally different, and there's like, personal privacy there, and so they have free reign to kind of do whatever. But
China, it's still the Wild West
it's the Wild West,
era.
and the United States has traditionally been kind of in the middle, and we see some opportunity to really advance AI, blockchain, and autonomous driving over the next 4 years.
Yeah, love it. Speaking of showcasing, I mean, I've been on some of those tours where we're taking politicians around it, and it does help, and regulators, of course, to show the light. Can you give us some perspective of what, in the second half of this decade, next couple CES shows, what are we going to be looking at? I can only imagine.
I think we're going to be looking at a highly efficient and productive world where everything is connected, everything is integrated. We're having a seamless, easy experience. I think you're going to see a few things that are going to take off in the next 5 years in the home robotics. I do think, this is something that started on the enterprise side, very big. I think this is going to be a reality for consumers in the next 5 to 7 years. I think
Right.
you can have a robot that will cook you dinner and do your laundry and other amazing household chores and tasks. I think you can have a robot in the home that could care for a loved one if needed while left the house for a few hours if you had an aging parent living with you. I think that's really going to take off. I think we're going to see AI truly powering every part of our lives and just making us more efficient, smarter, understanding, problem solving in an easier way. And I
Yeah.
think mobility is truly going to transform. I do think autonomous driving is the future. And I am really hopeful in the next 5 years. I have a 12-year-old daughter. Please, God, don't let her have to drive a car. Let her be in an autonomous driving car. Um, and I do think that's the way that people will get around. And I think it's going to lead to way fewer automobile accidents and deaths and much safer transportation system on the ground.
Yeah, you mentioned in the home, autonomous timelines are kind of to be determined. Everyone thought that they would be here by now. I've written a couple articles that said, it might start with public trans first, but
Yeah,
it's a crapshoot in terms of everyone being involved in it. Though some countries I've been to could use it, like India.
yeah,
So many
absolutely.
cars buzzing around. But you mentioned in the home, and people really want to know, when's this stuff going to happen? So through our Dancing with Startups program, done a lot of work with Whirlpool and other companies, and we looked at automated laundry, automated cooking, and it was a few years ago, and it was just too early. But a lot of that technology now has, well, a lot of it was in the medical space. They're trying to figure out how to bring it into the home because it's
Oh,
very
yeah,
precise and very
yeah.
different, and
Well, and AI is advancing those technologies. I mean,
yeah, that was my
you heard
question.
Jensen Wong at CES. He calls robotics physical AI,
Yeah.
and really AI is powering robotics and accelerating the pace at which those things and those solutions in your home will be a reality. I do believe that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And computer vision has gotten to
Yeah.
the point where it's there, and it's kind of real time. What anything else in terms of your vision of where you guys are taking the, I guess, the CTA in general?
Yeah, well, we're always trying to be on the forefront, to look into the future. We learn from CES, and then that drives where we go as an organization. Quantum is another technology that we had a quantum conference at CES this year. We've
Yeah, I saw that.
invested,
Yep.
yeah, we've invested in the Quantum World Congress. That's an event that happens in DC, and we think this is a future opportunity. It will not be in consumers are not going to have a quantum computer in their home anytime soon. Maybe not even in my lifetime, but quantum will power other industries, enterprise industries, at an amazing pace, like space exploration and transportation and biotechnology. Really, this is where you're going to see the advantages to quantum. So that's something that we're really excited about. And just, I say it all the time, but health, we've just gotten started. We've truly just gotten started. And I think that we will continue to see advancements in healthcare across the next few decades. And in the immediate future, at CES 26, look for wearable glasses like the Meta Ray-Ban.
Again.
Yeah, they're back. I know you remember Google Glass back in the day. That was like maybe 10 to 15 years too early. They're back
Yeah.
now, and they're gaining momentum and popularity.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting. The when you look at, just all the different technologies that's been enabled, healthcare. So we have an incubator in Chicago called Matter, which is just health
Yes,
tech
I'm familiar
acceleration.
with Matter. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and all the big dog companies fund it, which is nice. But what I've seen in the last couple of years is how AI is finally enabling a lot of the hopeful things that they were trying to build. So,
yeah.
so I'm with you on that category. Yeah, it's really exciting how you guys are rebooting and prepping for the future. Just curious how your own life has gone in terms of you've been in and out of associations and different roles. But what's been your personal reboot along the way?
Yeah, well, I started my career when I graduated college as a mediator, and then I went to work for an association management company, and then
You should be my co-host if you're a mediator. That'd be good.
it's I learned
You
so
can ask
much.
the tough
Um,
questions.
Yeah, I learned so much in mediation and conflict resolution and consensus building. I mean, skills that I use every single day. So that was a really fun 5 years in my career. I worked at Smith Buckland, a trade association management company, and then I've been 17 years at CTA. I think probably the biggest reboot for me personally was when I had children and trying to
Uh,
figure out how to balance wanting to be a great mommy to my little babies at the time, but also that my oldest child is 12 years old. So that was 12 years ago. And I was kind of just at this moment of really realizing how much I loved being an employee at CTA and how much I wanted to continue to be at CTA and identify ways to grow my career. And I remember often feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't believe these two kind of big life things are happening to me at the same time. I'm having children and married and growing up personally, and then also growing up professionally. And it's been a really fun, not always easy, but educational and transformational reboot, bringing those two together.
I bet probably some tough challenges. What kind of advice would you give new moms, expecting moms that you know really have a very demanding job and workload?
Yeah, well, I would say one, embrace flexibility and be easy on yourself. We have a tendency to want to be a perfect high performing employee and a perfect high performing mom, and just do your best at both, because if you're doing that, that's all that matters. And so be easy on yourself, have patience, have flexibility, seek out mentors, other working women who have gone through the same thing, or working dads who have gone through the same thing, but
Right.
seek out mentors and people that you can talk to and get advice from. I think that's really important. And I also think just lean into the different changes, because you never know when the next opportunity is going to pop up, and you might feel like I had this exact feeling. You might feel like, oh, I don't know if this timing is right for me. But if your gut is telling you, explore this opportunity, explore this change, do it, lean into it, and ride the wave and see where it goes.
Yeah, I love that advice. It's good. Speaking of advice, what would you give yourself? You're let's call it the 22-year-old Kinsey. So people jumping into the market here. What kind of a career advice would you give? Because it's very different from how it was when you and I started out.
It is. Well, I
But
would say
given that you're at the epicenter of tech, I think
I
this will
would
be good.
say to these 22-year-olds who I want to first note are so smart. The interns and the junior staff that come into CTA, I'm blown away by their level of intelligence, their perspective, their ideas. It's a phenomenal group. What I would say to them is make an effort to connect with colleagues in person. Come into the office. Ask people to go to lunch. Ask, stop by their office. My door's always open. Stop by their office, talk to them, spend time in meetings in person, observing the behaviors of the senior leaders and learning from that. You gain so much from looking at in-person behaviors and body language and characteristics. And I think that's really important. I would also say get a mentor and ask for feedback. It's something I didn't have the courage to do it when I was 22, but I wish I
Yeah,
did, because when I
me too.
finally developed the
Same.
courage to ask for feedback, I realized what a gift it was. And that if you could take that constructive feedback and if you could act on it, then you can be unstoppable if you're able to learn and grow from feedback. I think it's so important.
Sounds good. Great advice. Appreciate your time, Kinsey, and enjoyed having you on today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. And I always love talking about tech and CES, and good to connect with somebody who's familiar with all the amazing components of the tech industry.
We love talking about the future here. You've been listening to Kinsey Fabrizio on the Reboot Chronicles with Dean Tobias. Please subscribe, listen, watch wherever you get your podcast or at rebootchronicles.com.